All right. So, George, before the break, we have really painted a picture of what difficult conversations are. So, but if we could now contextualize most of that, I think it will help bring home the conversation itself. Yeah? So now let me ask, looking at the most basic unit of our society, which is the family, what are some examples of difficult conversations you think that we need to have at a family level?
Wow, that's powerful. You know, it's funny, and I think a bit of the break, we sort of got into it a little bit.
Yes,
about I think one of the big discourses we currently have is around the generations.
Sure.
And it sounds unfortunately like we are sort of like, are we on the cusp of it, or probably we are deep into it? You know, right now there's a lot happening about the whole global geopolitics.
Yeah.
And there often seems to be that conversation about, you know, could there be another global conflict, you know, or full-scale global conflict?
It's imminent.
It seems like it's imminent, or perhaps, you know, but also when it comes to the generations, sometimes I wonder to myself, are we on the cusp of it?
Okay.
You know, we seem like sometimes we are teetering on the edge of full-on battle of the generations. And there are times it feels like we are really into it. And obviously right now, there's a big discourse about the Gen Z. We're literally just about to, you know, get to the 1 year of the major widespread protests. And of course, the jury is out on there's a lot of opinions. I think there generally is a high level of, you know, what I call public opinion, but also there are all sorts of different extrapolations, opinions, and the discourse around it. One of the things I think I took from the events of last year is the fact that the change in how we do business is upon us.
Okay.
It is not business as usual. And of course, that widespread, you know, civil action, protest, etc., was on a national scale. But the biggest takeout I took from it, this conversation is going to be there on every level of society. And the national leadership was the first place.
Okay.
And for this particular context, we go top down.
Top down.
Not the other one which we knew. Top down, you know? And whether it's the, you know, national government down into the counties, down into, you know, whether it's our local governments or whatever you want to call it, down into the structures of society, down into the church and religion, and not just the church, because people are from different religious backgrounds. Every single sector of society, it's not business as usual.
Yeah.
And so the thing about this wave, if I can call it a wave, there are two ways to look at it. Either you try and go against the grain.
Okay.
And that's the harder path to go. Unfortunately, I'd like to say it's a path less traveled, but actually it's a path most people are taking.
Yeah.
And the path less traveled is one where you want to change the approach.
Okay.
When we talk about difficult conversations in the family context, you know, it's funny, they say that you could have cases of two children or two siblings in the same family who are not parented by the same parent. There's a famous adage that says that, you know, you never cross the same river twice.
Yeah.
You know, the same person, it's not the same river. Similarly, you find that two siblings may not be raised by the same parent, especially if they're from a different generation. And we have families that have Gen Z and have millennials. And the generally agreed upon thinking is that when millennials were coming up, you know, things were a little bit different in the country, in our church, in our society structures. And when Gen Zs were growing up, in fact, that's where I'd love to take the conversation back. So you find that the generation that is now what you'd call the young adults, they grew up in a very different dispensation from what we have as the middle agers. And of course, there's also the same applies for the older generation, the seniors, etc. And so you find that we now have parents of young adults who are in the later stages of their life. And you also have, for some cases, parents of young adults who are middle agers.
Yeah.
And this battle I'm talking about of the generations, I don't even want to say it's imminent. We are deep into it, in the thick of things. And so because of the different generations and different socializations that each of the generations went through, different socioeconomic context, religious, cultural background, name it, we cannot use a one-size-fits-all approach. And so I would say for me as a millennial, we were socialized to be told and not to ask.
Yeah.
And that's how life was. And it wasn't just on the family level, it was like at every level of society.
Every level of society, sure.
Now, those born, because that's one of the key markers of the Gen Z and the Gen Alphas, those born, in fact, I think the Gen Alpha were born into 5G. Some of them have been born into 5G. So Gen Z, the marker is that they were born into the age of the internet. But the Gen Alphas were born into 5G, meaning their interaction with the internet is not even the same as, 1, 2, 3, 4G.
Yeah.
Meaning for them, at some point, the phone is to be used like this, if at all it shall exist, and not like this. That means their interaction with the world. In fact, we talk about the metaverse and their reality. In fact, it's literally your entire existence and your reality is completely different. So when you come into the family context and find that you have children and teenagers and young adults whose reality and perception of life, that's the foundational issue, is completely different from the other.
Yeah.
So people in the Gen X, Boomer, maybe Gen Millennial, happen. The internet is an occurrence or is a phenomenon, but they have a full life outside of the internet. Even today, there are people who have a full life.
Yeah, outside of the internet, sure.
The internet is a place they visit.
Yeah.
There's a group of people as a generation who is completely immersed, their entire
Into it.
existence.
It's a function of the internet.
Is a
actually.
function. They themselves are literally, yes. They are literally, they exist on the web, on the cloud, name it. And that in itself is a complete source of conflict. Because obviously one of the big things with teenagers and preteens, even young adults, especially those who are still, under the influence and care of their parents, is access to the internet and possibly what needs to happen on the internet, whether it's work, economy, digital expression, name it. So it's easy to say that at this day and age we live, one of the single biggest conflicts is literally around the internet. Your experience of the internet, your interaction with the internet, how much you will invest in terms of time, money, etc. And the opinions could be as varied as day and night. And the funny thing about the age of, because we are now deep in the information age, is that information democratization has made the traditional structure of society. I mean, its democratization has literally disrupted everything.
Yeah.
Whole industries. Look at the taxi hailing industry. Look at financial services. Literally every industry.
Health.
Health, you know what I mean? And what that does is that it then gives power and actually gives even probably improportionate power to those who are more adept to the web and resources available on the web. So what we're basically saying,
makes sense.
what we're basically saying is that the parents don't necessarily hold the monopoly of knowledge. They may have experience, but they may not have knowledge.
Yeah.
And then the issue of who is right or wrong becomes very ambiguous.
How so? What are some of the things that, some of the indicators that could tell you that it's becoming more ambiguous? That's the question.
You see, the reality is, for a generation that grew up, I grew up, and I'm not even that old, quote unquote, and there's a whole generation of people like myself who, when our fathers got home, we disappeared.
I think we, as some Gen Zs, we also have
Had
those
that reality.
Yeah.
And so when you come up in a system where baba akipatikana, watoto wanapotea, and your life is probably better, that day will probably end better if you are asleep, in quotes.
Yeah.
That day may probably end better. They're running the risk of not being asleep. That's just asking for trouble. Of course, we had a couple of bold ones and, whatnot. And so coming from that space where not only is the figure of authority as a father, and for some people it's a mother, the figure of authority and power was a parent.
Yeah.
And if because the person carried so much authority and power, before even they say something, their existence is unquestioned. Now, when they say something, and remember, we are not in the information age back then.
Yeah.
Knowledge was not democratized. What they say, if they need to say it, is law. We have a generation that grew up where a look was enough to communicate.
Macho too.
You know, now, I mean, a child will say, "Mommy, why are you looking? What's wrong with your eyes?" In front of the people who the look is being delivered for. Can you believe that? Eh? Mommy, is something wrong? Why are you spoiling your face? Can you see the contrast between a generation where a look was sufficient, where you would literally only avail yourself upon request? Your presence would only be availed upon request. You don't need to be there. You literally had no voice. When you were in a social setting, children were to be seen and not heard. And in just a decade and a half, in the same family, we have children who are now proper Gen Z, and they have older siblings who are proper millennial. You can imagine the reality in a family that probably has children who are 15 years apart, with one person who subscribed to see not heard. Parents' word was final, was a law. There was no democratization of internet, and perhaps in the same family, there's now a proper Gen Z. Democratized internet. Of course, the parents are also a bit more mellow and older. And so in reality, and of course that's a general trend. Of course, it's not so common to have families where you have across generations, but it's a reality. But the general trend now is that you do what I say because I said it is like almost completely archaic. The fact that I would expect my child to do what I say because I said it, or even that my existence or my presence alone commands respect. Hard to accept it, but unfortunately no. And this is not just about children. The gender roles have significantly
also being redefined as well. Sure.
Yeah. And of course, for many people, they were socialized where there were certain traditional gender roles.
But that will be in the context of third world countries, because I think in first world countries, gender roles, how we see gender roles, how we've seen gender roles in our brief history post-independence has been quite what now the first world will term as backwards, or something that is just...
No, I would check that. Be that as may, Alex. The thing about the first world is that, yes, they're ahead of us in many things, but if you track back, just a couple of decades earlier, they're not that far behind us, not that far ahead of us. The times in some countries women would not be allowed to vote, would not be allowed to drive, would not be allowed to do. In countries you would think are the most progressive. So the reality of the matter, especially in our, let me call it modern society, the almost entire construct of how things are set up, including gender and pay disparity, careers that are completely male dominated, etc. A lot of that is actually defined by or influenced by our, the governments and the nations that actually helped build our nation. Then, of course, we also have natural advantages and disadvantages that come with the life dynamics. For instance, family dynamics, raising up of children. So as you look at the family progression, of a man and a woman, there are seasons when a lady is much more challenged because of balancing of roles between the family front and work, and for that reason, career, exactly. And for that reason, you see that the male counterparts seem to be thriving more. And then when things begin to settle down, you realize that, and that's what we're seeing today. The same ladies can still do probably even as good a job, if not better. So there are also the biological factors, social factors, etc. But in principle, there is a shift. And so why it's very important to be able to have difficult conversations. In fact, even this right now, at this point, we are a very difficult conversation because a very difficult point in the conversation because gender discussions, gender dynamics are very polarizing. Family discussions about upbringing of children, about discipline, about lifestyles and life choices, about education, about religion, these are very polarizing. So by nature, I'm coming back to the family context, difficult conversations sometimes are literally just founded on differences. And perhaps the core are differences and difficult. Because there's a sense of difference. And so if you find a couple or a family that have probably different religious or denominational backgrounds, different ethnic backgrounds, different social backgrounds, among other things, it's difficult conversations are often founded on differences. And so, in principle, because of the beauty of diversity, it is important for us to appreciate and accept that differences in view, in background, in approach it's not a death sentence. You can have a different opinion. Alex, I could have a different opinion or approach, and we could be working on the same project. What I would say is critical, and that's where coaching comes in, is awareness.
Yeah.
In fact, the best thing you possibly could have is awareness that possibly, and that's why some of the amazing resources we have, which we need to really leverage on, I think socially and even in the work context, is transition, sort of coaching and counseling, intercultural awareness. Some of the difficult conversations people end up having that can completely cause a breakdown in relationships, whether it's work relationships, family relationships, could be avoided if there was much more awareness. And that's where there's place for training, counseling, transition management, and wellness conversations comes in, where you literally prepare and give awareness to the individual ahead of time. If you're driving on a safari and they say, driving to Mombasa, when you get to Sultan Hamud or Emali, we tend to have certain type of wildlife that may cross, especially if you drive at night. So you even that's what road signs do. Signposting helps you know you don't have that wild animal in front of you, but perhaps in a kilometer or 2 or 5,
you might encounter one.
You might encounter, and then you drive with much more awareness.
Sure.
And the signposts, and that's what those are. So intercultural training, different types of coaching, different types of counseling, transition type of workshops. These are signposts and resources. And so what we should be spending a lot of our time doing today is not, because obviously it's much more expensive. It's much more physically and emotionally draining. And probably the success factors are far much lower. Repairing when you're in the middle of a difficult conversation. Repairing marriages, repairing broken family relationships, repairing career or business partnerships that are completely broken down. And so the investment we need to make is actually do the work to empower both parties or all parties involved to have awareness, because I am of African descent. In our African culture, this is how we show up. Because now in the global village, we're having all sorts of partnerships. African companies and African professionals are working with counterparts across the continents on projects, similar projects or in organizations. And so some of the conflicts that potentially could happen are literally because of different cultural backgrounds and cultural nuances. Similarly, relationships that are either from people of different ethnic background, race, religion, etc. There's naturally or high likelihood of possible differences. So preemptively helping people be able to have awareness and consciousness about potential difficult conversations and potential areas of difficulty, strife. I'll call it insurance. Insurance is useful more when things happen than when things don't happen. But we don't buy insurance in the middle of a car crash, when your car is on fire, or in the middle of a political instability. You buy insurance 7 months before or a year before. So awareness and ability of how to manage difficult conversations is the insurance you need. And it's insurance in a context that it will happen. It's not a question of if, question of when it happens. You can manage better. That's in the family front. But really, I think I've spoken into even the work context. Knowing the personality, I know Beth spoke about personality types, temperaments. That helps you. Because remember, like we said, it's a skill. So there's some people who are much more predisposed to, let me say, get into difficult conversations, initiate difficult conversations, trigger difficult conversations, including when they may not be necessary. In other words, you have people who are literally, they can either find fault or they can seek conflict. It's a trait some people have of seeking conflict. Remember, conflict is good. But the general sense is both people would rather avoid conflict. And some of that is hardwired into our cultural backgrounds. We get a lot of feedback around how people in Africa, maybe even especially Kenyans, would rather not tell you what they think. And so Alex, you come and say, we want to do this project, and this is how we do it in Alex from the UK, or from Scotland, comes and says, this is how we need to do this project, and this is what our non-negotiables are. Many people in Africa and even Kenya would rather say, yes, Alex, cheers, tutafanya. Knowing deep down, hiyo ni story yako. You get? It's easier for me to tell you, because the first opportunity for difficult conversation is say, no, here in Nairobi, or as
As Kenyans.
or as entity XYZ,
Yeah.
we do not do that. But because I don't want to upset you, annoy you, irritate you, or jeopardize the relationship, I will say yes. I will say, cheers, Baba. I will do it. Knowing well, I will not. Now, here's the funny thing. That initial difficult conversation, generally speaking, is usually much, I think it's an incremental scale. The first opportunity for difficult conversation is far much easier than the second, third, fourth. Why? Because when time passes, I usually like to say bad news, and I guess by extension, difficult conversations do not get better with time.
Bad news do not get better.
It's not like wine. You know how wine gets better with age? No. The truth, difficult conversations, and some things that need to be said, sometimes just need to be said. And believe me, I've learned the hard way that it's actually better to come out and say, I'm not comfortable, this doesn't work for me, as early as you possibly can. Because rarely will you find a scenario where you held back, giving honest feedback in a respectful way. Rarely will you find a time that being assertive earlier down the road works better. Because when a relationship needs to end, whether it ends at inception or a month in or a year in or 10 years in, the truth of the matter is it's probably going to be more painful and more expensive further down the road.
Sure.
So the earlier, the better. Mapema, do your best.
Now, something I think, especially in our experience as Gen Zs, something that, well, I don't know how common it is, but another difficult conversation that goes on amongst ourselves is about the choice of the partner that you need to sort of make. And the difficult conversation is actually about the ethnicity, about their tribe. Most of us are actually normally told, marry from your own tribe. Marry from your own tribe. So you see, marry from another tribe because, you know, there are all these kinds of stereotypes.
And differences.
And differences as
There's data.
Okay.
Let me call it data. Sorry, I jumped it. There's data, or I call it data, let me say data in quotes, to back up. There's data to back up why you shouldn't do it. But please carry on. There's hardcore, concrete data that people of there. So if you do, you're on your own. But carry on.
Wow. Alex. Yes, actually, now you've gotten to the heart of it. So I was to ask you, George. So as a Gen Z, should I defy what I'm being told about, my choice of certain tribes? And should I defy that, or should I just do what I will feel is right and what will work for me? How should I approach that kind of body of information that have been thrown at it?
That's such an amazing question. Thanks, Alex. The reality of the matter is, in fact, now I know, as you get older, with time and with exposure and experiences, you get to know. So I'm not going to say what my opinion would have been 10 years ago or 15 years ago, but I'll tell you what I think right now.
Okay.
I am convinced beyond a doubt. There's no, what they say, love conquers all. It's real, man. I'm a believer. Love conquers all.
Hey, that Alex, is deep.
Love conquers all.
Ati love nini?
That's the answer you should always give, Alex. Love conquers all. When they tell you, will this one last? Love conquers all. But bringing it close to home, what that basically means, I can say, and I know this whole data thing. I mean, have you ever met a couple, and there are so many sometimes you will see here and there, who are so mismatched? Some used to make the news. If you remember, they used to, once in a while, I think it was funny and to make the news. You'd have like, I don't know, those stories, it was like it's like straight out of a soap opera. And I'm talking about local news here in Kenya. Like maybe, and many of them are from Asian families, and I love my Asian brothers and sisters, but there were many cases, a couple of cases where maybe a guy who worked for the family or the daughter of the family, and this is a wealthy family, would fall in love with someone who works in the, you've seen those, and this is real.
A worker.
Yes, it would literally make the news, national news. It would be a whole thing, because that's the level of difficulty, and that's very catchy. People want to watch that, want to see that story. And of course, many of the soap operas would watch telenovelas. It's literally that a person from a very wealthy family falls for like a worker from the extreme opposite social, cultural, name it. So in other words, that relationship is doomed, dead on arrival.
Yeah. It ends before it even begins.
That's the thing. So now, from maybe my own socialization and my, my personality type and whatnot, and just because of the logical mind, which I think drives me and my, like I said, personality. Naturally, I would also, I'm big on statistics. And probably I'd be like, give me data. Can we have some data to show these type of relationships working?
Well, yeah.
And so I'm throwing all that out the window and say, look, whether you are mismatched, like different nationalities, different tribe, different religious background, different, especially because of this Gen Z. This Gen Z generation has showed us one thing. We don't subscribe to that.
Sure.
That's good for you, mom. That's good for you, dad. That's good for you, uncle. We don't subscribe to that. In fact, I have not seen a generation. For instance, Gen Z it's a thing. Like you see, people from different backgrounds, Asian, see Somali people like in the malls, these teenagers in the malls, and I mean, they even sometimes wear the garb, the traditional or the religious attire, but you can see that person with the Air Force One sneakers, like their Gen Z-ness is oozing.
More than...
So like what you would call the society, the religious and the cultural constructs, unfortunately, are like a shell. Have you ever seen a chick hatching out of a shell? Unfortunately. And this is a big crisis and a conversation we need to talk about. Unfortunately, those traditional constructs of our religious and our social-cultural are literally falling off. Can you see that image of a chick?
Yes.
Has broken the hatch and the last pieces of the eggshell are falling off. So our cultural, what probably just one generation apart away, because the millennials are famous for holding the culture, holding the doctrine, holding the expectation of society. And the generation right after is infamous. And I mean terribly infamous for having very loose anchoring to our religious foundations and to our our social, cultural, economic foundation. And for that reason, that thing that I probably would have believed 10 years ago or 15 years ago when I was probably now settling down into marriage is out of the window. What I know because of what I know today, your emotional intelligence, your social awareness, your ability to communicate effectively, what you're talking about here today, your ability to be assertive and speak out, your ability to be able to express yourself and direct and clearly put out your boundaries, what works for you and what doesn't work for you, will take you much farther in life, right? Than what tribe, or what sub-tribe, or what denomination, or what religion, or what color of your skin. And so when I say love conquers all, it's not even from a place of I'm a believer in love. I will say from the facts and the data that is clear. The people who will win in this century we live in, the people who will live in this day and age, are the most socially aware, the most culturally aware, the most assertive, the most emotionally intelligent. Those who are in tune. Because one of the things about difficult conversations, Alex, is that your internal environment is so much more important. So what you and I are speaking about right now on this table is an external manifestation
of our internal environment.
What's happening with you as Alex? What's happening with me as George? Right? Is what is showing up. And even that person who is viewing and listening to me speak and the sound of your voice is perceiving and taking in what we are saying. It's going through the lens and being filtered through their own biases, their own internal environment. You understand?
Yeah.
And that means that if I was to meet someone today and either we're going to do a project together, either they're coming on as a team member or coming on as a client, coming on as a partner, whatever it is, how we shall succeed in the employee-employee relationship, manager-management, team member, client, service provider relationship is completely influenced, not by their tribe, not by their race, not by their religion, not by their economic status, but their consciousness and capability to be in tune with what is really going on with themselves, because you bring to the table what's going on in your internal environment. And sometimes, unfortunately, difficult conversations are made completely impossible and break down because person A's internal environment is in complete chaos and turmoil. And that's why you find leaders and individuals, even family members and parents and spouses and all kinds of people spilling out the complete chaos. Are you getting my point?
Yeah.
People completely spill or spew. And that's why people sometimes create total chaos in their own lives, in the lives of their spouses, in the lives of their children, right? And you almost transmit and carry forward trauma over generations, meaning you haven't done the work. So difficult conversations, relationships, families, businesses, partnerships are completely anchored or sunk by the state of your internal environment. And that's why coaching, therapy, awareness through training, and just a broadened mindset are so critical. Because when you become completely aware of yourself, your triggers, the lenses through which you see the world, yeah, and even conscious of what works for you and what doesn't work for you and what your identity is, then you're able to identify environments, people, communities that are good for you, where you will thrive, where the best version of yourself will come out. And also quickly identify, and that's where the conversation around organizational culture comes in. When people say, organizations say usually this person, it's not going to work, we can't keep them because they're not a cultural fit. But also, increasingly now, more than ever, employees are saying, or even candidates, I've heard of cases where people get 2 offers. They probably interviewed more or less the same time for company A and B. And there are people who would even get a better offer in company B and choose to go to company A simply because of the culture. That I think this is a better deal, more money or whatever it is. But because of what I know and because of how I am in tune with myself and what works for me, I will choose to go to company A and probably even make a little bit less money. Because in the bigger scheme of things, this is a better environment. And Gen Z, I give kudos to that. Hats off to you guys, are much more in tune with that. You're much more in tune with what works for you, what doesn't work for you, what your value system or what your spirit, the vibes, where the vibes are just right. And where the vibes are off, And so at the end of the day, this, what we'd call the fourth industrial revolution or the information age, those who will win are those who are much more aware, adept, and in tune.
Are we really going to win? But
win in everything, win in marriage, win in parenting, win in business. Because when you look at it, Alex, and I'll tell you, that's why I'm saying, let's throw out the rule book. Okay. The rule book I was looking at 15 years ago, 10 years ago, it's obsolete. Because the rule book, and there's the statistics, but now I'm telling you, some of these realities about social awareness, emotional intelligence, capability to be assertive and express yourself, etc., will carry you far much further than your tribe. Will carry you far much further than your religion. Will carry you far much further than, how many perfect marriages, let's call them perfect marriages, completely collapsed. Everything statistically was right.
Yeah.
Same tribe, same religion, same what,
Yeah.
And I think we have a trail of as many collapsed perfect marriages, right? And surprisingly, have some numbers of non-starters that are still going strong. You get what I mean by non-starters?
Yeah.
What would have been perceived with the old rule book as non-starters.
Yeah.
And I think the greatest differentiator is literally the ability, to navigate, to work through, to move through those difficult moments. And we've said, Alex, it's not about if you shall find yourself
having those conversations.
Nope.
It's a question of when they're going to happen.
Right. And how are you prepared to be able to get through it?
Now, hang in there. Yeah? So I want to engage Tin. Because I want to ask a question. Yeah? Still, maneno ya Gen Zs, why do you think, from a personal perspective, why do you think sisi kama Gen Zs we are sort of stirred up to protest against the government of the day? What are some of the reasons that you can give?
I think accountability,
Truth and accountability. So, okay, truth and accountability. Okay.
They're saying they are tired.
They're tired.
TAYAD. Tired.
Okay, so the reason why nimeuliza hiyo swali is because there's a concept known as a democratic tyranny. So this normally happens when a majority have their way. All right? So let me now contextualize it using the several questions that I've asked. So unapata, yes, assuming the Gen Z's voice ikuwe heard, because I believe actually the things that we actually sort of trying to voice ni vitu za kila mtu. They're beneficial to everyone. But now I'm asking myself, so assuming we get everything that we wanna get, we achieve everything that we want to achieve, why does it seem to me ni kama there still is gonna be a minority who's still gonna rise, and it's just a question of time before that minority again becomes a majority? So more often than not, I think this is something reading through in history, the way countries have come to be shaped. It seems to me there's a democratic tyranny that actually emerges from a majority having their way.
And not to necessarily mean that the majority is necessarily the best way.
Yes.
Which is our reality.
Yes.
And really, that's why we are in the situation we are.
Yes.
At some point, the collective bigger number of people felt that the team that we now have was the better team.
Yeah.
Yes. Call it as it is.
But then again.
And now, collectively, but the question, of course, the jury is still out, because the process, democratic and electoral processes, whatever you want to say about them, ultimately are a measuring, or a yardstick for where is the. That's why we even have the referendums and whatnot, and why governance, especially at national levels, is one, very expensive, and it's not yet fully inclusive. It's because those who understand the systems and have control over the systems can be able to either harness the general collective psyche, or perhaps sometimes take advantage of it. And this is not an issue we have with the current dispensation, whether it's the past and probably the future ones. Those who are constantly, even if you use it, those who are winning or who win, are those who have the ability either to, because they keep on talking about, and over the years we've seen what they call a wave. And some of the people who have gone through, not just here in Kenya, who have ascended to office, are very smart, because they have been able to know where is the grain or where is the current
flowing towards,
and then now riding that wave. And so what you rightly say, you're actually probably speaking about our predicament, that the natural issue with democratic, like you said, tyranny is the fact that it's difficult to fully have very clear, absolute clarity over what the collective masses have. And sometimes it's very difficult to have the masses have a very coherent. That's what happened last year.
Yeah.
The Gen Z, who are the masses, were able to move and get the country to a standstill. But it was difficult to get a very clear, coherent, non-negotiable. Because what I usually see is like a missed opportunity for those who watch sports. You have a team that is able to create fantastic opportunities. They literally got the entire country. This is not even about the government versus, it's literally they got the country to a standstill.
Yeah.
But when the country came to a standstill, where it all fell apart is, what was the clear, compelling,
maybe narrative
ask.
or
Exactly,
aim,
because
yeah.
and that's why they say, so that's where the what I call the system has fallibilities and weaknesses, because you may have numbers sometimes will get you to move nations, but you need a very clear, and that's again conversations, because there are many difficult conversations. In fact, I don't even think about so much the bigger the last government, sort of the current government, ascended to power because they were able to tap in a very difficult conversation, which is about social inequality. And the reality of the matter is that it's not addressed. So it becomes then a perennial issue. In the previous, we've had more, and now it's going at that way, unfortunately, the conversation around ethnic background, which is very, I'd say, archaic. And thankfully, Gen Z are not as subscribed to it. But the difficult conversation is just literally about the great disparity.
Yeah.
The great disparity. And even if we want to talk about Western nations, especially in Europe, I think one of the things that perhaps could be markers of progress is less disparity between those who have and are able to have a decent life and those who are perceived to be in the higher levels of power.
Yeah.
So the disparity, I think, in some of the Western nations is lesser. In some of the nations where you find, heads of state can ride a bicycle or take the train.
Yeah.
And perhaps that's the difficult conversation which you have never really been able to have. And consistently, every single government that has run this nation, regardless of tribe, political, whatever, has really been unable to really crack that, convincingly.
And what do you think could happen? What could your proposal be to them of how to approach such kinds of conversations?
There's a lot of work to be done. But I think we've said, and obviously there's only so much we can talk about on this particular episode, but the biggest issue I'd say is the ability to, one, first of all, the will to have the conversation. Now, in fact, let's zoom out of the national, because we've gone to the national and the economic, social, political context. Let's go back down to the smallest unit of our society, which is the home, before you go to the workplace, the church. The fact of the matter is, whether you can be able to progress and what has caused societies to change and move to the next level is, number one, the will. Are you even willing? And whether it's at the family unit level or at the national stage, the lack of will is that what makes the difference between a non-starter conversation or at least a conversation that can get something to happen. I mean, you have cases of opportunities. Let me go to in relationships. Perhaps you have a disparity between either the roles in the home, because you have some of the roles which are more traditional and the roles that we have to share of raising children, of running the home, versus going out there to pursue or to get to earn a living. And so that in itself is such a polarizing conversation. And now we are having challenges, very major challenges around where are opportunities, and it's a very, very complex web because now we are in a global village. Sometimes better opportunities exist outside of our borders.
Sure.
Better opportunities exist outside of our comfort zone. And I'm not a proponent of go to your local, of your family context or stay in your family context. But what I'm trying to say is those are difficult conversations. That truth be told, and not just about I need to go out to get more money. Even just a conversation around I can get more money in this space, but we need to agree that I will not go out where I'll get 5x or 3x or 10x more, because what we are doing here, even maybe I'll stay home or I'll take a job where I'll make a tenth of what I can make or a fifth. But we need to have an understanding that I'm here because 70 or 60 or 50% of what I'm also doing is building this family. And you who has to do X, Y, Z need to also treat me with that dignity.
Sure.
Because the work I'm doing 50% of the time or 30% or even 100% of the time, if I'm going to stay and take care of the family, take care of us, is not less than the work you are doing.
Yeah.
So that very foundational conversation can completely be a dead-on arrival, could be a non-starter conversation. Yet, navigating that conversation is a foundation. Because the thing about difficult conversations, there exist opportunities to completely break relationships. But again, exist opportunities within difficult conversations to completely concrete. And there are families that have navigated differences, like we said, whether it's ethnic, religious, economic, name it. And all those are opportunities to concrete. And some of those families have become very solid, those couples.
Yeah.
That they even had to defy their family, their religious, whatever, and other things to say that we will stick together.
Yeah.
And then, of course, other challenges become every step of the way. Families have had difficulty getting children or have gotten children with certain special conditions, special needs. There are people who have gone through periods of not having work, either one or both. And all those are fertile ground for difficult conversations. And remember, difficult conversations will always be an opportunity to completely concrete the relationship or for it to break and fall apart. So that awareness, and then whether it's come from the family level or the individual interpersonal level to the family level to the society level, whether it's religious institutions to education, all the sectors of society, right up to the national level. Every difficult conversation, and unfortunately, now we have 60 plus years of data. Majority of the difficult conversations we have had have been opportunities to break. Yet there were opportunities to build. So the things will begin to change, whether it's just at a sub-county level or county level or ward level, constituency level, right up to the national level. When we choose, first of all, we have awareness that these difficult conversations are necessary. Not a question of if, but when. But when they happen, it is a golden super opportunity to build, to come together, rather than to break apart. It's about, by the way, they are just opportunities. Every time you have a difficult conversation, and you can even do flyers around this or those quotable quotes, every difficult conversation is an opportunity. And how so it's like in a tonga tunnel, ama overpass. Ukienda kwa overpass, depending on the type of car you have. Kuna gari ukiingia overpass, hiyo gari itakufia hapo, ama iko na mafuta enough. Ikilala hivi, izimike na whatever. Labda ugongo. It can be a disaster.
Yeah.
And for some cars or some once you go through that overpass or tunnel, it just elevates you to another level. So it's an opportunity to completely crash. Ama for a plane. There's a way, a difficult conversation could be a takeoff, and you fly to the next level.
Okay.
It could be an opportunity to crash. Like these are the 7 Dreamliner alianguka juzi, unaona?
Yeah.
And completely nothing will be found there. Can you imagine how much that plane was worth? The plane, right?
Yeah.
The plane, the crew, the lives that were lost, the reputation, because airlines, those things are very damaging.
Very.
So maybe that's what we talk about. Every opportunity, every difficult conversation when it presents, see it as But then I'll be happy to land it with that.
Okay.
Every difficult conversation, keep a very keen eye for could this be a potential. It's an opportunity to get your relationship to the next level, but it's also an opportunity for that relationship to crack.
Yeah, to crash,
And sometimes
to break
beyond repair.
apart. Wow. All right. So yeah, I think this conversation can't end today. But for now, I'd like us to put a pause to it. I think we're gonna pick it up very soon. Very, very soon. But I want to thank you so much for the time, for the efforts, and above all, for your mind. Your mind is very, very interesting. I was telling them your mind is very, very interesting.
Thank you.
And thank you, George.
Karibu sana.
Thank you.
I've had a great time. This was awesome. Thank you, people.
Nice.